Caregiving can sometimes feel like an impossible struggle. Caregivers may be torn between taking care of loved ones and trying to maintain balance in life. The good news is that it doesn't have to be that way. The Caring Generation with host Pamela D Wilson is here to focus on the conversation of caring. You're not alone. In fact, you're in exactly the right place to share stories and learn tips and resources to help you and your loved ones. So now, please welcome the host of The Caring Generation, Pamela D Wilson.
This is Pamela D Wilson, caregiving expert, speaker, consultant, and guardian of the Caring Generation. The Caring Generation focuses on the conversation of caring, giving us permission to talk about aging, the challenges of caregiving, and everything in between. It's no surprise that needing care or becoming a caregiver changes everything. The Caring Generation is here to guide you along the journey to let you know that you're not alone. You are in exactly the right place to share stories, learn about caregiving programs and resources to help you and your loved ones plan for what's ahead. Invite your aging parents, spouses, family, and friends to listen to the show. If you have a question or an idea for a future program, share your idea with me by responding to my social media posts on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, my videos on YouTube, and posts on LinkedIn. Today, the topic is taking a different approach to caregiving. If you are a family caregiver feeling any type of frustration, anger, resentment, or exhaustion, the information I'm about to share might help you consider taking a different approach to caregiving. This involves changing the way you respond and approach interactions with care recipients and really everyone in your life. If you are a professional caregiver, like a nurse or a CNA, working in a care community, a hospital, or anywhere in the healthcare system, these tips will also help you. Plus, the suggestions can apply to any life situation where you might be dealing with difficult people and difficult life situations. Issues on the list for today's discussion include reasons for not going along with what an aging parent or spouse wants, how to show kindness and empathy even if you disagree, why winging it or not having a plan makes family caregiving situations harder, how to deal with criticism, and how to manage through the sacrifices that all caregivers make. Let's start with the number one reason for not going along with what the person you care for wants. This example relates to gaining an understanding of the consequences of actions. Let me give you a couple of examples, one from my personal life. My mother, like many of yours, was probably adamant about never going to a nursing home. In fact, she threatened that she would come back from her grave and haunt all of her children if we ever put her in a home. You might hear similar statements from elderly parents, spouses, or other people that you know. I don't hear many people say that they want to go to a nursing home. But on the other hand, I don't hear many people say that they love going to the gym or exercising every day. But they exercise because it's good for them. And when they're finished exercising, they feel better mentally and physically. Another example, who likes going to the dentist? Nobody I know. So in the context of taking a different approach to caregiving and life, there are things that none of us want to do, but we do them because logically we know these activities are good for us. Using logic versus relying on emotion is a crucial consideration for making many good decisions in life. Unfortunately, many times emotions drive the decisions that family caregivers and older adults make. You see the effects of emotional decisions when caregiving responsibilities result in caregiver burnout, resentment, and exhaustion. Let's return to the example of my mother not wanting to go to a nursing home as one reason not to go along with what a loved one thinks they want. As a result of smoking a pack of cigarettes a day for many years, my mother was diagnosed with bladder cancer and needed surgery. After surgery, the recommendation was to go to a nursing home, which today is also called a rehab community, with the goal of physical and occupational therapy to help my mom regain her strength. Mom refused. My oldest brother was retired, so he agreed to come home for a month and help my dad care for my mom after her surgery. Because my mother was so adamant about not going to a nursing home, none of us, including my sister, who was a nurse, questioned my mother's logic in digging in her heels. We didn't ask why going to a nursing home was critical for her recovery. We failed to advocate for the care my mother needed. Now, admittedly, in 1995, I didn't have much of the experience I have today. In 1995, when all this was happening, I didn't have the experience I have today in caregiving or aging or the healthcare field. If this happened today, I would have made sure my mother understood the option of not having surgery versus having surgery and the effort it would take to recover so that she could have made an educated decision. For example, use logic versus being swayed by emotional fears about going to a nursing home. Now, fear can be a negative or positive motivator. In this case, the decision to return home by my mother instead of going to the nursing home had unfortunate consequences. Mom refused to get out of bed and wasn't interested in eating or drinking. Her refusal to participate in any physical and nutritional activity that would have helped her recover soon led to her death. She was probably in pain from the surgery. This was pain that could have been managed in a nursing home with medications and access to care from nurses and doctors. And the nursing home stay would likely have been temporary, not permanent. But again, that's a fear that she had. The nursing home staff and my brother, who was there, would probably have made sure Mom got out of bed every day to participate in physical therapy. Instead, her refusals and my brother not being insistent resulted in an impossible situation that would have benefited from taking a different approach to caregiving had we known. In retrospect, we as a family should have met with the physician and the surgeon to ask many questions. For example, how going to rehab would help my mother recover from surgery, how it would help regain her physical strength and return her to being able to manage day-to-day when she returned home. Instead, we allowed our fear of facing my mother's anger to sway us from following through with logical steps to evaluate the situation and understand all the options. I really don't believe my mother had a complete understanding of the surgery or the effect of the surgery on how she would feel and how long it would take to recover. If she had a thorough knowledge of the options and the consequences, she may not have felt obligated to have that surgery. Instead, she may have chose hospice care. So back in 1995, my mother's surgery for bladder cancer was on February 21st. She died on March 8th. Taking a different approach to caregiving means not allowing an aging parent's or spouse's refusal and your fears to question those refusals or your fears to investigate to result in unexpected and negative consequences. Other examples along this line are persons with Alzheimer's who are adamant about driving a car when they've had multiple car accidents or have become lost while driving. Another one, refusal to use a walker or cane when falls are a frequent occurrence. Taking a different approach to caregiving in this context means not allowing your fear as a caregiver to stop you from investigating situations and consequences and, more importantly, having discussions with loved ones so they have a thorough understanding and can make logical decisions. Although sometimes a parent's rational decisions may seem illogical to you, but at a minimum, you can discuss the potential consequences and discuss a what-if plan. For example, Mom or Dad, based on our conversations, I hear you say that you are not concerned about balance issues and physical weakness that the doctor has diagnosed. So that's a fact. Mom or Dad, so I'm hearing you don't want to follow medical recommendations to use the walker. This is your choice. But if that's your choice, you might want to plan for what happens if you fall and injure yourself or break a hip. How will you recover? Where will you live if you can't return home? How will you pay for care? Who will be your caregiver? Your parents may not be ready for this type of discussion, and they may feel that you're being a bit pushy, but you've stated your concerns. This leads to number 2 for taking a different approach to caregiving, showing kindness even if you disagree. It's my opinion we need more compassion and respect in the world instead of all the divisiveness promoted as acceptable by the news media. Taking a different approach to caregiving means that elderly parents, spouses, or others who need care will not always agree with their caregivers. If you are a family caregiver, you probably know that there can be more points of disagreement than agreement. Now, I'm not saying that different opinions are not a good thing. They are when you factually and thoroughly investigate and examine both sides, the pros and cons, to be making sure that you are making logical decisions. Let's take a step back and look at logic. What is logic and how does it work? A simple example of logic is using math. 3 plus 3 equals 6. That equation is never going to equal another number except for 6. The use of logic helps people question everything, which is a good thing. Using logic can influence the way we act and the decisions we make. Using logic helps with problem solving, planning, and consequential thinking, all things that are beneficial if you are in a caregiving situation. If you're interested in learning how emotions affect logical reasoning, I will include a link to an article in the transcript for this program. It's called How Emotions Affect Logical Reasoning. And the article will be something that you can relate to because it relates taking an exam or a test, which we've all done in school. And the article summarizes that people in a negative mood who are affected by their feelings perform worse than people in a positive mood. However, interesting, negative and positive people were outperformed by people in a neutral mood, less swayed by emotion. The article also discusses how making correct decisions and decision timing can be more challenging when emotions run high, because emotional processing in our brain, it requires the use of working memory and attentional focus. So when you relate decision-making to caregiving, you have all these situations. So, for example, long-distance caregivers may be involved. Your siblings may be across country. You may be 2,000 miles away from your parents, not really sure what's going on. Your parent may be chronically ill, heart disease, Alzheimer's, diabetes. And there also may be worrisome discussions about nursing homes, assisted living, memory care, in-home caregivers, hospitalizations, medical appointments, healthcare treatments, insurance, money, paying for care, and so on. Talking about these ideas in an emotional manner can make it more challenging to make good decisions. Whereas talking about these issues with no immediate crisis and no immediate decisions that have to be made allows you to think more reasonably and factually, which increases the likelihood of making more objective and fact-based decisions. The one factor, though, that can affect the ability of care receivers and caregivers to make decisions is the component of memory loss, Alzheimer's, dementia, or any type of cognitive difficulties that can be associated with other chronic diseases like Parkinson's or MS. In these cases, as the caregiver, if you are the legally responsible individual, as an agent under medical or financial power of attorney, you may be the one to have to evaluate and make decisions for a parent, a spouse, grandparents, another loved one. Decision-making using logic versus emotions can help family caregivers take a different approach to caregiving. Acting logically, though, brings in a few more considerations. For example, not taking things personally. You will be a much more effective caregiver if you learn to be calm and objective. The place to vent can be an online support group or in-person group with other caregivers having similar experiences. But don't bring these emotions into discussions with your parents or grandparents or family members. You want to be cool like a cucumber. Using the skills we discussed for taking a different approach to caregiving also includes asking questions about anything you are unsure about and rephrasing what you hear an aging parent, spouse, or another person say to make sure you understand and eliminate any assumptions you might make. The example is the discussion that I modeled before a few minutes ago. In addition, encourage all people you interact with to talk while you listen so that you can get to the bottom of concerns. These actions lead to number 3 for taking a different approach to caregiving, which is the idea of collaboration in problem solving. So instead of winging it by responding to crisis after crisis, you can have solutions and options on hand in advance of experiencing difficulties, or you'll have a plan. We will talk more about this after a short break. Collaborating to solve problems with good intentions can avoid adversarial relationships and minimize judgment or criticism in family care situations when people become divided in their opinions. Please pay it forward to help others dealing with health, aging, or caregiving issues by sharing information about this show on my website, PamelaDWilson.com. The Caring Generation is available worldwide on your favorite music and podcast apps: Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, JioSaavn, Spreaker, Amazon Music, Breaker, Deezer, Listen Notes, Pandora, Player FM, Pocket Cast, Podcast Addict, Podchaser, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn, and Verbal. You don't have to go it alone. Caregiving doesn't have to be a do-it-yourself job. Visit my website to schedule a one-to-one telephone or video consultation with me. Click on How I Help, then Family Caregivers, and then Eldercare Consultation. This is Pamela D. Wilson. You are with me on The Caring Generation. I'll be right back. This is Pamela D. Wilson, caregiving expert, author, and speaker on The Caring Generation. Thank you for following and communicating with me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and my YouTube channel, where there are hundreds of videos. The questions you ask allow me to create videos and the Caring Generation podcasts for you. Visit my website, PamelaDWilson.com, and follow the show on your favorite music or podcast apps, where you can listen to over 100 episodes. Let's return to number 3 for taking a different approach to caregiving: collaborating to solve problems. Many of us use these skills in the workplace. Why not? cultivate these skills, and transfer them to our personal and caregiving lives with family members, friends, and people involved in the care of our elderly parents and spouses. Here's the gap. Caregivers are busy people with a lot to do, and rarely anyone to help. So there are times when caregivers become overbearing or demanding because of time constraints. When family members who could help don't, the primary caregiver can become more emotionally distraught. What happens when emotions take over? The decisions made may create more problems. Taking a different approach to caregiving means never thinking that you have to do it all, or that not involving others is a good plan. Now, your parents may want you to do it all, but you will learn, if you haven't already, that this may work out for a short time, but not indefinitely, especially when that 6 months of helping out mom or dad project turns into a 5, 10, 15, or 20-year-long caregiving project. Knowing your limits as a caregiver and setting boundaries is a basis for collaboration, problem solving, and creating a care plan for loved ones. Collaborating to solve problems means that you are not able or responsible for solving all problems by yourself. Involving the care receiver, other family members, healthcare providers, and others is a better way to create a plan to care for aging parents. The sooner you realize this, the less alone you will feel. To simplify the process of collaborating and problem solving, it's best to start by writing out on a piece of paper or in a notebook the big picture concerns. And then, after collaborating with people, maybe a doctor or someone else, decide which issues are a priority to tackle from a health or a timing perspective. If you have a team of family members who can help, you may be able to accomplish more in a shorter time frame. Do your best to remain optimistic about solving the concerns, and above all, be persistent. Don't give up. Number 4 for taking a different approach to caregiving is dealing with criticism or judgment from the person you care for, from family members, friends, or other people who simply don't understand the stresses and responsibilities of being a caregiver. As a family caregiver, it can be difficult not to take criticism or judgment personally when you know the time commitment and effort you put into helping a loved one. But when you think of it, knowing what you do is precisely why you should not take criticism personally. You're an amazing person. You do a great job. So let's look at some good responses in the spirit of kindness and compassion to anyone who criticizes caregivers. Something like, "Wow, thank you for the suggestions. I appreciate them. I'm doing all I can right now. When are you available to help with your suggestions?" Or, "That sounds really interesting. Tell me more about how this idea worked when you were a caregiver and how you might become involved in helping me care for my parent." It's so easy for people watching on the sidelines without any experience of the day-to-day activities of family caregivers to make suggestions having zero application. Another idea you may have heard me make many times before is to create a list of all the things you do and the time commitment you give. If anyone makes a suggestion, you can hand the list to them and ask what responsibilities they would like to take over and how much time they can commit to helping every week. In these situations, the bottom line problem is usually time. It's not all the outside stuff. So if you focus on the fact that you are doing everything, others are not helping, or all you receive is criticism, you will continue to be frustrated, angry, and resentful. Instead, What is it you really want? Do you want your life before caregiving back? Or maybe just a little more time for yourself? How do you get there? You get there through collaborating with others, even if this means scheduling an Eldercare consultation with me or someone else who you feel qualified to give you advice. Collaborating also means identifying community services and other ways for parents, spouses, grandparents to receive the care they need if no one in your family can assist. While taking these steps can involve more time and effort, so many caregivers tell me, Pamela, I don't have time. The bottom line is if you don't move ahead, you will never be free of the frustrations you are experiencing. This also means, though, that you have to discuss making these changes with a parent who may not want their life tossed upside down like a salad or their daily routine changed. For more information on how to talk to parents about care and answers to hundreds of other questions posed by caregivers, listen to all of the Caring Generation podcasts. This takes us to number 5 of taking a different approach to caregiving, which is managing the sacrifices that all family caregivers make. In this context, I want to look at sacrifices as trade-offs and choices. A lot of caregivers say they didn't have a choice but to become a family caregiver. Woe is me. Everything we do in life is a choice. It's A or B, C or D. We make choices to get things we want. And we make choices that sometimes result in things we don't want. Examples. We work to pay rent or a mortgage, or to support our family. If we don't take care of our health, we become sick or diagnosed with one or more chronic diseases. Everything in life is cause and effect. Another simple example, if you don't brush or take care of your teeth, you'll end up with a mouth full of cavities. That results in having to go to the dentist and a little bit of pain and probably a lot of expense. We all make choices that resulted in where our lives stand today. The choices can feel like sacrifices when we are giving up one thing that we enjoy in favor of another. Relating this to becoming a caregiver, for how long are you willing to give up things in your life in favor of remaining a caregiver? Taking a different approach to caregiving might mean that this is one of the first considerations you make. How much longer are you willing to make the sacrifice, trade-off, or choice if you already are a caregiver? What are you ready to do to change the situation so it doesn't feel like so much of a sacrifice and you have more balance in your life? While you might feel stuck with a problem, you are only as stuck as you believe yourself to be. Our minds are powerful machines. We get in, or I should say, we get out what we put in. Sometimes that can get ourselves into a lot of trouble. Once you start imagining what your life could be like and commit time to investigate alternatives, you might become inspired and motivated to change. How are you programming your mind? What are you putting in there? Are you willing to reprogram your thoughts to take a different approach to caregiving that feels better for you if you are experiencing anger, resentment, caregiver burnout, and exhaustion? Are you willing to collaborate with others to change your situation? Are you ready to not go along and remain in your current situation that may have you swimming in emotions instead of looking objectively and factually at the options that you may not be able to see if you're dwelling only on the negatives? Is it time to take a different approach to caregiving? Only you can answer that question. Thank you for joining me for this program. If you want to share your story or you have a request for a podcast topic, video, or article, visit my website, PamelaDWilson.com. In the top bar, you will see a Contact Me button. Click on it, and there will be a drop-down where you can complete a caregiver survey. Please share The Caring Generation and my website, PamelaDWilson.com, with everyone you know who is interested in proven, reliable tips, information, resources, and research about caregiving, aging, health, and everything in between. This is Pamela D. Wilson, caregiving expert, advocate, and speaker. I look forward to being with you all again soon. God bless you all. I'm sending love to everyone out there. Sleep well tonight. Have a fabulous day tomorrow and a great week until we are here together again.
Tune in each week for The Caring Generation with host Pamela D. Wilson. Come join the conversation and see how Pamela can provide solutions and peace of mind for everyone. Here on Pamela D. Wilson's The Caring Generation.